Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and this episode 377. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Stacy. That is at Stacy Patton89 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Warm but rainy, so can't have it all.
Yes. Yeah, not ideal. It's supposed to get cold again tonight, so really the best of no worlds, which is a place that the Knicks are currently. But before we get started, I do have to make a few announcements. The first being that the Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at the Strickland Instagram, posting all kinds of new content on there. The Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and there's all kinds of cool stuff on there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Finally, the Strickland has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. They're numbered for tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland's podcast that I always have Friday with Prez. You also get access to the Strickland, not the Strickland mailbag anymore, but Takes from Obvious Bozos, our newest podcast that is hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And you also get access to the Strickland Discord, where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod, or a rant and rave about the Knicks more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Moreno, one of the best in the business. And now you also get access to Strictly NFL. That's right, our NFL podcast that is hosted by Konstantin Metrikos. That comes out every week, though a little bit slower probably now in the offseason. There are further tiers. There's $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits like listening to pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. And this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or your mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team. Remember to use promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. We've also got a great new sponsor. I love betting my friends and betting them on anything. Sports games, who's fast? That's what Cut allows me to do. The Cut app is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's legal in 40+ states. Cut has customizable odds, tracking capabilities, and an entire social network with group chats, user profiles, and rewards. All payments, no need for Venmo. What can we bet on? Well, Stacy, I could bet with you that Jalen Brunson will continue his dominance over Donovan Mitchell this Sunday in a showdown with the Knicks at Cleveland. Although without Randall and OG Anunoby, that may be a tough ask. Use our promo code BLEAVENICKS, BLEAV Knicks, for a 10% welcome deposit bonus. Don't forget that promo code. Again, that's BLEAVENICKS, BLEAV Knicks. Put your money where your mouth is. All right. That was a mouthful. But
That's what your mother said.
I don't think she would say that to you, little guy. But moving on, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna say this. I find it really hard to have any serious analysis of this team right now, and
yeah,
they're beat up.
Say,
They're beat up. Like they haven't had Randall and OG now for 13 games. They're 6-7 in those games. They didn't have Brunson last night. They haven't had Brunson in a couple of these games either.
They haven't had Mitch. Like, we never talk about that because of how good Hartenstein and Precious have been. And even I'll say this, Sims, I thought pretty reasonably well yesterday. But yeah, like they're missing. They're mitching. Pretty good player.
Yeah, we didn't have Mitch. We didn't have Hartenstein. So you're out 5 starter caliber players, however you want to phrase that. 4 starters, at least, from your backup big is probably the easiest way to put it. And I just don't know how anybody, like, I think fans that are losing their minds about these games, like, get a fucking grip. There's nothing that can be done. Okay, there's literally nothing that can be done. OG Anunoby is recovering from surgery. He's going to be back whenever he's medically cleared to be back. Randall is recovering from a dislocated shoulder. He'll be back whenever he is back. In the meantime, this is the team that we have at our disposal. And we can be upset and mad and, I wish. They're not going to do much more than they're going to do. Without OG and Randall, this is a team that is around a 500 team. And that's what it is. There's around 6 and 7. And they didn't have Brunson in two of the games they lost during the 6 and 7 stretch. They didn't have Brunson. So like, it's what it is. And I just struggle to understand anybody getting upset. Like, yeah, sure. I would love if Alec Burks would make a shot. I would love if he would not dribble into the dumbest shots possible. I would love if, Josh Hart would pull from 3. I would love a lot of fucking things. I would love a lot of fucking things. But I also have to be realistic about what the team is. Like, even the stuff with Thibs, there are times I'm guilty of it too. I get frustrated. I'm like, Jesus, play a fucking lineup with some spacing. But then if you look at the lineups and have spacing, okay, well, then you're going to suck on defense and you're going to get killed on the glass. And it's like, there's really it's impossible to construct consistently balanced two-way lineups without OG and Randall. That is the reality of this team right now. And that is what they're living, and that's what they have to accept, and they have accepted it, and that's what fans need to accept. And I'll be completely honest with you. I'm somebody who's a pretty statistically inclined person, at least in terms of trying to understand and give context to what we're seeing on the floor and all that kind of stuff. I have not looked at a single fucking statistical data point for this team, aside from like Kirk Goldsberry charts that pop up on Twitter or Bass NBA University fucking point per possession stats that make Jalen Brunson look like God or whatever it is. I haven't looked at any of that shit for like a month plus at this point, because they're not going to tell you anything that matters. This is not the team, this current roster. This is not the team that we plan to be or that we will be when we're healthy. So all I give a shit about right now, in all honesty, is gutting out as many wins as we possibly fucking can. I just can't like really summon up much more analysis now. Like I God bless fucking John Macri, who's still pumping out daily newsletters. God bless him. I have no idea how he's doing it. And I mean that. Like, tip my cap to you, because I go fucking crazy trying to find things to talk about with this team right now, because I just don't find it like. I find watching them play, of course, interesting, because I like watching the Knicks play basketball and I like basketball. But I don't think there's like a lot to discuss after these games, because I'm just watching them and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this thing that I thought would sucked, and this thing that I thought would be good maybe was good. And Jalen Brunson made some shots, and Dante DiVincenzo hit some threes, and Josh Hart did some cool shit. It's like, it's stuff we already know. So I don't know. Like, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm washed and I'm losing interest. I don't know what it is. But I just find it really hard to like dig deep into the numbers and have like strong opinions, because to me, I just watch the team and I'm like, I really think they're giving everything they've got. I don't think they're easy answers. I think it's like, look, I'll shit on Thibs, I've done that many times, but like, I find it really hard to get on him for too much stuff right now. Like, yeah, sure, the Jericho Sims stuff at times is weird, and like, yeah, maybe every rotation isn't perfect, but like, he's dealing with a lot of imperfect solutions, particularly in the front court where we're super beat up. I mean, like you mentioned, we don't have Mitch, we don't have Randall, we don't have OG. That's at bare minimum, that's 2 of 3 starters, if not 3 of 3. And like, when you're that beat up in the front court, like, thank God they got Precious Chua in the quickly RJ trade, because without him, we'd be even more depleted in the front court, and we'd be getting pummeled, like to a ridiculous degree. The fact that they're still rebounding at a strong rate, the fact that they're even in these games half the time, for as long as they're in these games, I just can't really get upset about any of it. And like, last night, I'm look, trust me, I'm not saying the Knicks lost because of the whistle, but like, they didn't get a good whistle yesterday either. So like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to be upset that like, oh, Deuce McBride isn't good at the rim. No fucking shit. Like, oh, Alec Burks can't make 2-pointers. Yeah, I knew that fucking 2 years ago when he was running point, and we were all like, are you fucking serious? Like, we just like, oh, Bojan Bogdanovic is weak on defense and is old. You don't say. Like, I know these things. The entire point of like, and I also like, and Nick's Tape wrote the article this week about it on Strickland, but like, that's why I find it also hard to just evaluate the Bogdanovic and Burks trade right now because I'm like, clearly you don't acquire those guys to be like, okay, just go be OG and Randall and like we're good to go now. Like they are acquired to be pieces when your team is whole and to play specific roles. And right now, especially Burks, they're being asked to do way too much. And it's exposing them. And like it is what it is. Like the Knicks got to find ways to gut out wins. They've gone 2-2 now in the 4 games since the All-Star break. If they can tread 500, until whenever OG and Randall are back, that's all I can really ask for at the most. I don't really know what else to say. And I know it's frustrating because you look at the standings and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Miami, of course, this fucking piece of shit team is back from the dead. And like Orlando all of a sudden gets every call because the refs want to fucking marry Paolo Banchero and like whatever. Like I get the frustration of that. I just find it really hard to be upset at like anybody really on the team or with the team or the coaching staff or anything, because I think they're really doing the best they can. And honestly, they showed some growth yesterday. Just not growth, maybe that's the wrong word, but like I was happy they basically load managed Brunson and Ihart yesterday. And that's why banking the Pistons win was so important, because it was like if you have a back-to-back, that was clearly the game in that back-to-back that you're like, okay, we have to win this fucking game. We've got to win this fucking game. And sure, did they get lucky with a foul call? Maybe we can talk about that. It's a hell of a lot more interesting than fucking, how effective we are running DHOs with Jericho Sims or something. But like, I just, if they got that win, that's what mattered. The Pelicans won, especially once Hartenstein and Brunson are out. You're already like, okay, so this is a game where if you lose, nobody's going to give a shit. And anybody that did give a shit and expended energy giving a shit about that yesterday, I feel really bad for you. I did not watch that game live. I did watch it this morning, and I was bored out of my mind watching it. But like, yeah, I didn't watch last night at a soccer game. I scored 2 goals if anybody cares. But thank you. But yeah, that's just like what I feel right now, because I don't like I look, we do a fucking podcast every week. I do 2 podcasts every week at least. And like, I just, at times I'm like, I don't really know what we're supposed to talk about right now, because it feels like we talk about the same fucking things all the time because there's nothing we're learning. There's nothing new. And yeah, of course it's frustrating because we got the, we got that 14-2 month, or that stretch right after the OG trade where it was like, you're like, holy shit, this team's a contender. And I believe it's a contender. It is a contender. If this team is healthy, it is a contender. But they need to be healthy. And until they're healthy, I can't hold them to that standard.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the frustration I'm seeing, at least it is not at any particular... I do see a lot of frustration towards Alec Burks. You do see people saying, was the trade worth it? I think there's a little bit to that, because we gave up a good defender who could shoot if he couldn't do anything else, for 2 guys who are right now look to be... I was expecting a lot more from Alec Burks, to be honest. But that aside, I think the frustration, you just hit it on the head. It is really like KG and Uncut Gems, right? It's like,
yeah,
we had this amazing...
Why would you show me if I can't have it?
If I can't fucking have it, and that's what it feels like, right? Like that.
It's also like what Paul Pierce said about Jason Tatum.
I want the full load, or what?
Yes, correct.
No, was that about Tatum? He was like, "We see it. We're just getting a taste. I want the full load."
Yeah, well, wasn't it Tatum or was it Joe?
I it was like no, I think it was a while ago. It was like Embiid or something, I think.
No, he wouldn't say that about Embiid. It's Paul Pierce. Come on, be realistic.
But I think the frustration is just how good they are when they're healthy. We've seen it. I mean, it's not just that they were 14-2. There were a couple of eked out wins, but they're just they dominated Jokic without Hartenstein. Yeah, that's, by the way, the second time. The last 2 times we have played Denver, we've blown them out. And it's funny because Jokic has had his 30, 10, and 8 or whatever it is, but he ends up with 6 turnovers. And whether it's Mitch or Precious, and Thibs deserves a lot of credit because, hey, it wasn't just Mitch. It wasn't even just Hartenstein. He has figured out something with Jokic, it feels like. It's 2 games, small sample size, whatever. But that is not a small thing. They blew out Philly. And I don't want to hear about DeAnthony Melton being out. So, and then you go to this where, and it's also frustrating because you can see, to your point, that the guys are really playing hard. Even Burks is playing hard. It just seems like there isn't, we can talk about Alec Burks a little bit. I think that's worth getting into. But they were the 2 seed at one point when everything was going well. It feels like, if you watch, I'm sure you've watched Cool Runnings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end, they're just setting a record on that course, and then the bobsled just breaks. That's what it feels like is happening right now. Like they were just this insane team, and they're doing their best, and it's just everything is going wrong. But I do agree that you can't draw too many conclusions. I'll caveat that with this: if the Knicks don't get healthy, this is all moot, and that's sad because championship windows are very fleeting. Oklahoma City had 3 MVPs, future MVPs, but at least 2 of them were already playing like that. Harden was pretty damn good on that Thunder team. Ibaka ended up being a Defensive Player of the Year. They didn't win a title. And these windows can be, and they were younger even than the Knicks are right now. And you feel like, yeah, we're young, and Brunson's still on a good contract for another year. Randall doesn't have to get extended for another year. But Hartenstein's going to get paid. Like how, at some point it feels like this could, it's not like we have the luxury of just saying that there's always next year. But I do think that these games, if the Knicks do get healthy, these games can be useful in the sense that guys are trying. I'll say this: I've been so critical on this pod and everywhere of Josh Hart initiation. Last night he did a fantastic fucking job. I think that's worth bringing up.
It's worth bringing up, but it's also like one of those things. Like if you let anybody initiate long enough, they're gonna have like I don't know. This is not a criticism of Josh Hart. This is not even. This is just like. This is why Josh Hart is not like somebody you want initiating consistently, right? Because it's like, yeah, he'll have like, yeah, I agree with you. He had a good game yesterday,
but he's developing a feel, right? He's developing that mid range. Off that mid range now that he can hit that a little bit, he created an alley oop to Jericho Sims. In the half court, in the fast break, he is starting to realize that it's not just put your head down and go to the rim. He's starting to play with a little more pace in the fast break. And I'm not saying that's like that's not going to be his role full time. But now, when we're healthy, if Josh Hart has that helps. The fact that DiVincenzo has to take 23 pointers or whatever, I think he took 15 or something yesterday. He probably would have ended up with 20 if the game, didn't get out of hand and he wasn't benched. The fact that DiVincenzo has to add that, now when Brunson and Randall come back, you do have a third kind of creator who can do some things. Precious having to figure out the post game a little bit, like that last play where they challenged, he didn't travel. He travels a lot in the post. That is real growth, right? That and it's almost like a vaccine that you're forcing this team to go through adversity to get guys to incorporate some skills that maybe they didn't have. I mean, Precious's defense has been fucking insane. I thought he was terrific against Zion when he was matched up with him. Zion's going to just get some of his bully ball points and he's so quick. When that guy's healthy, that there is a reason why he's still viewed as a superstar. But I do think that if and when they get healthy, it's helpful to see that this team doesn't let go of the rope. One, they never do, and two, they're starting to expand a little bit in ways that they wouldn't have the opportunity to do if they weren't healthy. Right? Deuce has become really comfortable with that pull-up mid-range jumper. Is that something we're going to want him taking a lot of when Brunson's back? Is he going to play when Brunson gets back? Brunson, whenever he's healthy? No. But these are things that in a playoff series, you get 1 or 2 of these things, and the other team is geared up to load up on Brunson and take away Randall and double him when he gets the ball. And these guys are finding out, it's almost like when you lift a huge amount of weight, if you go down by 20 or 30 pounds, it's a lot easier. And I do think that, if you wanted a silver lining out of all of this, again, that is under the assumption that at some point they will be healthy. That would be it for me, that I think these guys are being forced to get out of their comfort zone. And as much as I've bitched and moaned about Josh Hart initiation reps, I'm starting to see that it's working out. And it's never something you want full time. But if he's the third or fourth option, that's going to be really nice to have in the playoffs,
Yeah, I mean, it is, and that's
this wouldn't happen if we didn't have the injuries, right? So it's kind of a silver lining there.
I totally get that. I just think like it almost doesn't matter still because this isn't like he's not going to have the ball in those situations, and like
but he's going to have it sometimes, and he's
going to have it sometimes.
Last year in the playoffs, when it was Brunson and Randall was hurt, there was nothing. So if you have something there, and they're healthy, I think that matters, right? And developing that, I don't know how else you develop that. Dante too, for that matter. If Dante had just been a catch and shoot guy and shot 45% from three, but he couldn't do anything with the ball, it would have been the struggle come playoff time. But now he can do some things with the ball.
I mean, I think the ball, he was already doing stuff with the ball prior to OG and Randall getting hurt. But like, I mean, did they have nothing without Brunson last year in the playoffs? If Randall was not there, I mean, they didn't have anything with Randall out there. If we're going to be realistic,
Randall drew attention. That's a bare minimum. I know, yeah. But the point, but that adds to the point, right? You need these guys you cannot just have Reggie Bullock. That's what we found out the first series, right? Reggie Bullock, really good 3-point shooter, played his role in the regular season. In the playoffs, you need a little bit more. And I'm not saying Reggie Bullock was at a more advanced stage in his career, but these guys are in their 20s, and if you give them that opportunity to stretch a little bit. Because these games are meaningful, they're in a unique position where guys usually, when they're on teams where they're asked to do more than they're capable of, that's usually a shit team, right? It's like, it's like Jalen Green being asked to do too much in Houston. This is a unique position where every game does matter, so that they have to play really hard, but they're also asked to step outside the comfort zone. I think that'll be a benefit to the Knicks come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't it helps, but it just Josh Hart's not taking mid-range jumpers in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen.
He might have to sometimes. The shot clock's going to get low, and they're going to double Brunson. And
sure, and they're not going to win or lose a series based on that. I'd be shocked.
I would throw your own words back at you because you talk about how much margins matter. And
the margins matter, but the margins, he's not shooting well from mid-range. He's having a nice streak right now. What is he shooting this year from mid-range and from three? Josh Hart for the full season. I'm not talking about right now. I'm just talking about for the full season. He's averaging 8.5 points a game right now for the season. Right now, okay, I have it. Here we go. He is shooting from three. He's shooting 31.8% from 16 to 3, 16 feet out to the 3-point line, shooting 21.4%.
Low volume. It's 2%.
Yeah,
on that
21.4%.
A decent 41% from 10 to 16, and 3 to 10.
That's at 10% of his shots. And his usage. How many shots has he taken this year? He's at fucking. Let's see. He has taken a total of 440 shots. So we're talking about a sample size of it's 10.5%. So we'll call it 46 shots.
46 shots. Getting some of those reps, I don't think is invalid.
I don't think the reps matter. I just don't think the reps matter that much because I think he's in a good vein of form right now. And so right now he's making some better decisions than he has at other times, and he's making a little bit more of those shots. I don't see this as he's developing something. I see this as just this is needs must. And right now we need Josh Hart to do stuff that when Randall is healthy, when OG is healthy, we will not want him doing. And we probably won't ask him to be doing.
But not at all. I think
are there very specific. Are there very specific situations where it might arise? Sure. Yeah. End of game. End of shot clock.
Have that in your
How
back
many of those
pocket.
are we talking? But it's not going to move the needle. He's not doing it enough for it to fucking matter. He's going to get in a fucking playoff series. Let's say we're playing the Heat. He's going to get a maximum of those 10 times in the series. So you're talking about the difference, what if he does it well, which is what, let's say 50%, he shoots from those. It's just not enough to move the needle. It's good for him just to
But it's also the stuff that comes off of that, right? Because if the defense has to worry about that, if that,
do you think the defense is ever going to really worry about a Josh Hart mid-range jumper?
It gives you something when they're loaded up, and it's also stuff off of that, right? Because if there's a little bit they have to help off DiVincenzo, or if there's a little bit where the big has to pause and be and think about it, I'm saying that's the difference between championship teams and really good contenders. That's the difference between a team like Boston right now and the Knicks, because the Knicks haven't had that. I don't think the difference is just that Tatum is this awesome talent and Brunson. I think if we beat it, and I think it's worth talking about it. If you want to beat Boston, you want to beat healthy Philly, you want to beat Milwaukee, you are going to need these guys to step up and make plays, not as your core of your offense, but those things do swing series. I mean, that's why Bruce Brown got fucking paid, didn't it? It's not like Denver's changed their entire strategy to be like Bruce Brown making plays is going to change it. We have Jokic, we have Murray. We're not asking Bruce Brown to do anything more, but the times he could, that matters in those in the later part of the playoffs, and that's where the Knicks haven't been, so we haven't had to talk about it as much. But that is absolutely
but the difference is I don't think Josh Hart needed these reps to be able. Like I think he's always been able to do that. He's been able to do that. It's okay now he knows because Brunson and Randall, like yesterday at least, Brunson and Randall and OG are out. Okay, I kind of have to do it. Like I just have to do it right now. But I've always known he can do it. That's actually kind of the frustration is you're like, can you just do like, and even then, like half the mid-range.
I think with decision making, though, reps do matter because he made stupid decisions the last couple of games.
But half of these mid-range shots are stupid decisions. I mean, you have a wide open, you have a fucking wide open threes, pump fake and dribble into the mid-range shot. That's not a good decision. So like I can appreciate
it is if it gets you rhythm, right? If you get a couple dribbles, some people are more comfortable taking shots like that.
It does. I mean, I have no. Is there some proof of Josh Hart shooting better off the dribble? Do we have? I'm honestly asking.
You're asking your wrong co-host.
Yeah,
the other one I'm sure has that data. But
I'm sure I can find it in like 3 seconds if I really wanted to. But like, I just don't see that as evidence. Like, I know Josh Hart can do that in a pinch. He did it last year in the fucking playoffs against Cleveland. He had a game winner off the bounce from 3, basically not a game winner, but he had a huge 3 against Cleveland in game 1 off the bounce from top of the key. So I know he's capable of doing it. I just never have that question. Like to me, but I think it's more like I think it's more frustrating. This is the biggest frustration is fucking. I don't care about Burks that much because honestly, I'll just say this: I would much rather do stay in the rotation than Burks whenever we're at full strength. But whatever.
I'd much rather Precious stay in than both. But that's another.
Yeah, well, yes, of course. But Bogdanovic, like, I think people are frustrated where it's like, oh, well, he's supposed to be this offensive wizard. Like, why can't he do all these wonderful things? And it's like, well, look, like, yeah, he put up great numbers in Detroit, and I don't consider those empty stats or whatever. But if you put him in a role where he has to like carry, offensive creation to a large degree, you're not going to be that good. We know this because there's fucking evidence of it. Now, when you get Randall and you get OG and he's more protected defensively and he doesn't have the creation load that he has at so many times right now with the Knicks, on top of the fact that he's working his way back from a calf injury, which I believe he talked about, like, you're not getting to see him in the role that I think he would be asked to play. Now, how significant of a role will that be in the playoffs? How many minutes can he play in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't suspect he can play a ton in the playoffs. I'll throw that. I agree with anybody who holds that as a criticism. But I do believe in the regular season, if we were at full strength, that guy can help you a lot. He can help probably save OG minutes, Randall minutes, even Brunson minutes, because the non-Brunson minutes where Randall's on with him and OG's on with him, I think those would be more productive. And that's where his real value could come in. But we're not even getting to see that because we're not healthy enough. And like, so like, I don't think the point you're making is wrong, but I can't get excited about that because to me, especially with knowing who our coach is, Thibs, like when we're at full strength, everybody's going to be like very defined roles, duties, minutes, rotations, whatever. I don't think Josh Hart is going to be allowed or able to do the things that you're saying we can benefit from the things that he is being freed up to do right now. And maybe that's true.
Encouraged to do.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe that would be the case under a different coach who would be like, oh, well, Josh actually showed some pretty interesting stuff here. That's something we can utilize. Like, I don't think Thibs is going to view it like that. When Randall is back, he's going to be like, okay, Josh, great. We need you to never do that again now.
I'm thinking about the times when Randall or Brunson was doubled by Miami and they kick it out and you're like, open 3. Oh, no, it's Josh Hart. If there is something more he can give you there, And to your point, maybe maybe Hart isn't the best example. But look at Precious, right? Precious is showing real offensive confidence. Are the results mixed? Yes, the results are mixed. But Precious, Deuce, right? Deuce is showing some improved aggressiveness off the dribble, and he can't finish at the rim, but he might be able to when they have to worry about Julius Randle. And it's these dynamic situations where when you have the ball in your hand, where reps help isn't just shooting the jump shot. It is having to kind of understand that I'm the guy and I have to know what everyone else is doing. And I think guys like Deuce, guys like Precious, especially the younger guys. So Hart maybe is not the best example, but Devo's never really been asked to do that since he was in Villanova, right? And now if he's going to do that in a playoff setting, I think that matters. Getting back to Bogdanovic, I actually haven't really had a problem. Like because he's just a tough shot guy. He's going to have some off nights. He also carried the Knicks offense for the first half against Philly. I think he's done what you brought him here to do. I think with Burks, as you were saying, the whole idea was this is a guy who can handle the ball, avoid pressure, and be that like third guy after Randle and Brunson who can create something when shit just isn't working, right? I where I'm struggling now is he hasn't always been in negative situations here. He has struggled to create even with Brunson and Devo next to him. So it's not like there's a lack of gravity all the time. It's just basic ball handling. I think there's some things that'll improve. Like even when he was point guard, he did get the ability to make basic reads. He's not even showing that right now. I do think there's just an athletic change from the last time he was here. He was a pretty solid defender last time. It was very clear, actually, you have an A/B test here. A couple years ago, Deuce, as great as he is, and as much as he has caused problems for Cade Cunningham going back to college, was getting shot over by Cade Cunningham in the mid-range. We throw in Burks. Burks makes a play at the end. Burks is a pretty solid defender. For all of the criticism we rightfully give him, I don't think Burks starting was the issue, right? I think we've talked about this. Burks should have been starting over Fournier and quickly should have been the point guard. It's not Burks starting it that was the issue, or even his usage. It was that he was starting at point guard, and for some reason we were giving Evan Fournier minutes that could have gone to Quickly next to them. And when Quickly and Burks played together, they were actually pretty awesome. Right now, I don't even see that. He still has touch. He can still hit shots around the rim, but he just looks slow. So I agree with you. I actually think that, and I think with Precious, Precious has been fucking awesome. He's being asked to do way too much. And I think that matters too. Like, it's not just offense. On defense, he is going to have to switch on to Jason Tatum. He's going to have to switch on to Tyrese Maxey. He's going to have to wall up at the rim against guys like Joel Embiid, or whoever we play. Maybe it's Paolo Banchero or whoever, or Bam. Right? He has gotten the opportunity to do that, and I think that's at least the one thing I'm taking away from these games, and this the general feeling that this team, we'll see how long it lasts, is going to never let go of the rope. And I think the other thing about frustration when you talk about Knicks fans is it's going to happen in February, basically anytime. Kurt said this in our strict cord, these are the dog days of the season, right? It is like July and August in MLB. Even after the All-Star break, it's tough to get up for every game. You're seeing Detroit really start to steal some of these good teams' lunch money because they are playing hard. They are guys fighting for their careers.
Also, can I just say, I don't, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I didn't really understand the idea that the Knicks didn't play hard in that Pistons game. I think the Knicks played hard.
They played hard. I think
they fucked up some shit with helping off the wrong guys or whatever. They played plenty hard in that game.
No, I don't think that's ever been. Has anyone questioned their effort?
People as soon as the game started yesterday, were like, "Oh, they're flat." They're not fucking flat. They missed some shots. Cade was on fire. It fucking happens. Not everything is about fucking effort and heart.
Cade's really fucking good, by the way.
Yeah,
I think that. Yeah,
just ask Alan Hahn. He wouldn't shut the fuck up about it the entire game.
No, I think he's still not viewed as let me ask you this: would you take Paolo or Cade right now?
I
think it's a real convo.
I haven't watched enough of either to feel strongly about it. But I would say gun to my head, Paolo.
Yeah, because he's on a winning team, but he gets to play, by the way, as you have acknowledged a lot, next to a guy who is a star level player in France. I don't even know if I would take Jalen Williams over Cade. That's like, I think think about how people talked about De'Aaron Fox early in his career. It's a different game and all of that. And Fox expanded his shooting eventually. But I think a lot of the same things apply where Fox was on a poor team with not well-constructed team. He was asked to do a lot and the results were mixed. But you can't just look at Cade's true shooting percentage and I think say that, I mean, he's averaging 22, 7, and 4 on not good, but somewhat respectable given the context, 55 true shooting. So, I think if we had OG, he would have struggled a lot more. But he, at 22, you shouldn't be asked to, dominate against OG and Anunoby. But the point I was making is this is more that I think it's also just it's the dog days, and we want to know what the playoffs are going to be like. That's what we've been looking forward to all year, and now we're starting to get nervous because Miami's surging. Indiana is not going away. Indiana's not playing well right now, but they're not going away. Philly eventually will get healthy. I mean, it would be a disaster if they ended up in the play-in. A 6 seed probably wouldn't be a disaster, but it would kind of suck given how great they played. But it's also it's a part of the season where it's kind of a drain right
now. Look, they're going to end up where they end up. I genuinely don't give a shit about their seeding at this point. Like, I look, if they can get healthy in time, it is what it is. If they're healthy by the playoffs, that's all that fucking matters. I don't care about their seeding. I don't. I mean, obviously, yes, I would like to avoid the 8th seed. That would be nice to not have to play Boston in round 1.
Or I don't want to play the play-in period because you have the low. I mean, it's 1 or 2 games that decide your whole season.
If the Knicks are healthy by the play-in and they can't win if they can't win 1 of 2 games, then they should fuck off. I'm sorry, it's not that hard. If you cannot win if you can't win one play of
Atlanta or Brooklyn or something.
If you can't win, they play it. I would be shocked if they drop into the 9-10. But they're probably, if they did drop to the play, it'd be the 7 or 8. If they can't win 1 of 2 games, then they should fuck off. Honestly, then they're a joke. But I assume they would be able to win 1. Obviously, you'd want to win the first one because then you're not to play Boston in round 1, unless Boston has some epic collapse here, and shits the bed. They're going to be the 1 seed, so you would like to avoid that. But aside from that, I would, if you just guaranteed me, hey, the Knicks are the 7, they're going to be the 7th seed, but everybody's going to be fully healthy, ready to go. Or even if you just told me Randall and OG are going to be back, but Mitch won't be, I'd be like, okay, fine, I'll take that. I'm happy with that. We can beat anybody else. I'm fine with that. I really am. I think this team is really good. I think they're a contender if they're healthy. And the only caveat to any of this stuff to me, if they're healthy, is 2 things. Will Randall not shit the bed, which is possible? And can Thibs not have his brain explode when he has to make tough decisions in the course of a game and series? Those are the only 2 things that, in my opinion, could severely hold them back. Obviously, if guys miss shots, whatever, you can't control that stuff. But the things that are in their control, as far as player and coaching performance and stuff like that, if Randall doesn't shit the bed, and if Thibs doesn't have his brain explode, they can beat anybody in the East. I think they can even beat Boston in the right scenarios. But they're a contender. That's a contender. They are a contending team, and as long as they get into the playoffs, I'm fine with that.
What are the right scenarios that they could beat Boston?
I think that would be a very coaching dependent thing. So that's really what yes, Randall has to play well, but I think Thibs has to not be married to the idea of oh my God, I gotta especially if Mitch is healthy, I don't think there's a chance that Hell will beat Boston.
Do you think we have a better chance if Mitch wasn't healthy?
Yeah, because I don't think he will play. He will not. Yeah, he won't be creative at all. If he has Mitch and Hartenstein, he will not be creative in any way possible. We already have evidence of that based on last year's playoffs. He didn't try anything. He literally did not try.
He didn't have an option like Precious, right? Obi at the 5 isn't.
Dude, they're playing fucking. Look at Miami's roster. They're playing Bam at the 5, and their biggest guy after that is Butler. They're playing Butler at the 4 most of that series.
So you're saying you wanted Hart at the 4 more?
Anything. Play Randall at the 5. Play you could go small. They went small at the very end of Game 6, and they nearly fucking came back and stole that game and sent it back to New York. You have to try shit. He has never demonstrated in any meaningful way that he is willing to try to play small or however you want to phrase it.
Until his back's against the wall. But
his back's against the wall. And that is the main concern that I have with him. It's not like, yeah, I would love if he was more creative offensively and whatever. All that shit is fantastic. But his biggest problem to me is not responding to dynamic shifts within the course of a game and series. That's his biggest issue as a coach. And it didn't matter against Cleveland last year because they just didn't have anything else they could throw it as.
Well,
but
he
it
did
clearly
make a shift. I mean, going to the guard screens. I know that's low hanging fruit, but that did change things.
Yeah, but that's tactical. That's tactical stuff that I just don't think is like yeah, that's cool and that's great. To me, I think the rotations and the lineups and adjusting to what an opponent is doing is a lot more like, and there was no adjustment to be made against Cleveland because they didn't adjust to that. We just ran guard screens and that was that.
But they didn't have the bodies.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so it didn't matter. There was nothing they could do. But he didn't demonstrate his ability to like change much against Miami. Which like, maybe you want to say that's the roster he had. And look, obviously Quick gets hurt in that series, and Randall is hurt. Yeah, and Randall is hurt to start the series. He misses game 1. Like there's all like, so it's not all on him. But over the course of his career, this has been a problem for him. In the playoffs, he does not adjust quick or rapidly enough. And so like, whatever, we'll see what happens when we get there. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he has learned and he's about to have his Budenholzer moment or something. But like, that's it. Like, to go back to the initial, I just don't, I cannot be bothered about seeding because the priority is just get these guys healthy. Just make sure we're healthy for that period. And that's why like stuff like yesterday where you're sitting Brunson, you're sitting Hartenstein, I think that's smart. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, like sit those guys because especially Hartenstein, we know he's had this Achilles thing. There's no reason to play him on a back-to-back right now. Like, but they lost the game by 17 yesterday. Probably going to lose that game either way. So just fucking sit his ass.
I lose it even if Brunson plays, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, that's it. There's no way to even, who knows? But like, it's just smart to do that stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it's a shift in the organizational priorities where, I mean, I wonder if like the call came from up top. It's like, hey, Brunson's sitting this. You know, it does show that their priorities are shifting to April and May more than February and March. And they got to make it through this month. Still 11. I mean, it is crazy that there's so much angst when they're 11 games over 500. When's the last time they've been 11 games over? I mean, they were 15 games over 500 at the peak, but you know, that is something that's been unprecedented since probably 20. I mean, even last year in 2020, we were never 15 games over about 500, right? So, you know, or 11 games above 500, I think. We ended up the season at 47-35. So we've gotten there, but it is a very new thing, and it is notable that the organization seems to realize that they can make some noise if they hold out for May and June instead of trying to win literally every single game here. I would I do want to get back to, you know, given the trade, is there any buyer's remorse on your part, just from the standpoint of Burks is worse than we thought he was on defense and isn't showing the creation? Bogdanovic, I do think, provides much superior creation than Grimes, but Grimes is a much better defender than both those guys. And if both of those guys are eventually going to be 3 and D guys and mostly shoot off the catch, is there a sense part of you that is like, maybe we should have just stuck with Grimes if they're not providing the creation to float the boat right now anyway?
I can't judge this trade until we see this team healthy. So that's my answer to that.
Right, but the reasons we made the trade were partly because they were depleted. So you get 2 guys.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. They did not make the trade because they're depleted. They made the trade because these guys, like, yeah, could they help us when we're depleted? Sure, maybe. They made the trade because they're assuming at some point Randall and OG are going to be back, and they're probably betting, hey, if we get those guys back, maybe these dudes.
You said yourself we need bodies right now.
Yeah, we got more bodies. Yeah, we got bodies. Do you think Quentin Grimes was shifting any of these games? If you don't think he was shifting any of these games, then it doesn't matter.
Well, in terms of how the perimeter defenses look, I mean, everyone is shooting well from 3. Some of that is luck, but some of that is also, you know, Bogdanovic and Burks are not the same level of perimeter defender as Grimes.
Do you think Quentin Grimes was there a single game we lost in the stretch where you're like, if only we had Quentin Grimes?
I would probably say the Detroit game would have been less close, and I think they might have had a better chance last night. But Bogdanovic and Burks also just played bad, so and they needed to create. And I don't know if Grimes would have been asked to create, but I think the perimeter defense would have been better a lot.
I have a pretty strong feeling Grimes would not have done well if he was asked to create last night. And like Detroit played us close earlier in the season when we had Quentin Grimes.
So but he would have been better on defense last night. That's my point. So,
but like you're saying this, but I'm saying we have an example from earlier this year where Detroit, Cade had his first 50+% shooting game from the field, and I remember specifically in that game he destroyed Quentin Grimes. So who's to say that Quentin Grimes was going to come in yesterday and immediately, oh wow, holy shit, we have Quentin Grimes now. Cade can't go anywhere. Like yesterday
would have been like,
and we know for a fact Quentin Grimes struggles against bigger wings. That is like a thing he struggles against. So he's not gonna do shit against Brandon Ingram, which we saw earlier this season. We saw earlier this season he didn't do shit against Cade Cunningham. So like,
or Trey Murphy,
I think he would have done a better job of Trey Murphy because Trey Murphy, he had one nice move on Bogdanovic who can't move. He can't actually dribble. But like, I cannot judge this trade until we see what these guys do with Randall and OG.
But to your earlier point when you're making about Josh Hart, if and when Randall and OG come back, they're just going to be 3-and-D guys, right? They're just going to be catch and shoot guys. Mostly.
I think Bogdanovic is going to be a lot more. I think he's going to benefit
even when they come back.
Well, Bogdanovic can actually run like dribble handoffs, and we know Julius Randle loves to run dribble handoffs. That's a thing, and we'd also know Julius Randle was creating 3-point shots this year at like a higher volume than anybody in the NBA or something. So yeah, I think Burks would probably die right now to have Randall back healthy. He'd be like, oh my God, thank God. I can just stand out here and this guy's going to do some 360 jump pass to me for an open three. That's awesome. I'll do that all day. Like, I think we already saw what Grimes is doing in this capacity this season. And do I think Quentin Grimes is always going to be what he was this year, which was quite frankly for the Knicks, not a very good player this year. He just was not that good. No, I think he's better than what he showed, which is why I wanted to keep him. I preferred to keep him. But I don't think the trade they made was bad. I think the trade they made was fine. It was a solid gamble. And I don't personally feel that Quentin Grimes' upside is ever going to be at the level where we're going to be like, man, fuck, I cannot believe we gave up on that guy. I feel that way about Quickly. I know RJ's played really well in Toronto. I don't feel that way about RJ because I don't think
it was ever. Three-point shooting has come down to earth. By the way, It's back down to it. It seems a lot like some of those stretches where he just couldn't miss, and then he's now at 36% from three for Toronto, which is.
Is this RJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's
Quickly also shooting the lights out. He just can't hit a shot inside the arc.
And RJ's making everything inside the arc now all of a sudden. But RJ was never going to be what. Like the best version of RJ was never going to happen in New York. So I'm happy for him, whatever happens. If he shows this level that I didn't think was possible, fantastic. Awesome for him. Happy to be wrong. And I hope he goes on to do wonderful things. It was just not going to happen for him in New York. Quentin Grimes, even at like the guy, I know that all of a sudden he was busting out, fucking takes to the rim that we've never seen before from him in New York. But like the guy can't dribble. So fundamentally, like if you just cannot dribble, and he's not an RJ type where he doesn't need an advanced dribble, right? RJ's so strong that he can just kind of get to the rim no matter what. I'm not worried about, oh my God, what if Quentin Grimes becomes this thing? Like, dude, the guy, he's a solid.
He seems a little like Courtney Lee to me.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like.
And he has no mid-range game. He has absolutely like the one shot he took against the Knicks that I was 1,000% sure he was going to miss was when he took a pull-up midi. I was like, oh yeah, that's a brick all day. Like I'm not even worried about that one going in. I don't remember the last time he made a pull-up mid-range shot in New York. I don't know if he ever did. But like, I just cannot be upset. I can't judge this trade until I see this roster whole. At the bare minimum, let me see it with OG because I think OG is critical to like this is the fundamental issue I think with this team right now. And again, obviously you're down, the guys were down, you're going to have issues. They can't construct 5-man lineups that have solid two-way balance.
Would you rather? I mean, do you think OG is more important to them than Hartenstein, or on defense?
Yes, absolutely. Like I don't even think it's a question.
I agree, but
OG but OG gives you the balance that you cannot have without him. And we saw that even with Randall, that was proven true, right? I mean, replacing RJ in the starting lineup with OG opened up so much on both ends of the floor. It completely unlocked the team. So OG is like the linchpin in a lot of ways to not the team. Ultimately that is Brunson, that is Randall. But like they can't be contenders without OG. They need him. They need OG desperately because he brings balance to this team in a way that nobody else can. He shifts guys into roles defensively that are better suited to them. Like Dante competes. He competes really hard on defense. But like you can see when OG is out, he is overburdened. Same with Josh Hart. And there's a trickle down with that. Like, so because those guys are overburdened, maybe they're getting beat more often. Hartenstein has to come over more.
And you're losing your two best help defenders right now, right? I mean, but they're both elite help defenders, but they can't do that at their point of attack. So,
lunatic, because it's very, very frustrating for me to like. I cannot judge so much of this. I don't think I'm like maybe people that's a cop out. I don't think it's a cop out. I literally I'm telling you, I do not think you can judge this roster as it's made up until you see it whole. And at least with OG back. At least Hartenstein will be back. He was rested, right? Brunson, I think that was a rest day, basically. I think they made up some bullshit. Yeah, his fucking what do they call it? His fucking neck. Cervical vertebrae.
My back.
Okay. All right. Is like a cervical vertebrae soreness or something.
He's getting hit in the head a lot. So
yeah, well, he's got a big ass head. Just ask Josh Hart. But yeah, like I don't know. I just think that you have to wait. I know that sucks, but like there's just no way you can judge this trade until you see what it is when we're whole. And also, like, look, Burks has sucked from especially shooting the ball. It's been 7 games. Like we've seen Burks have horrible 10-game stretches.
This season, he started the season really bad at Detroit. Actually, before the Knicks trade, he had really heated up, right? So,
it's just like you got to just wait. I think you got to wait to see the sample size and getting guys comfortable and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Burks is ever going to be comfortable enough to distribute or not do some of the things he's doing. Like the dribbling stuff is what's really concerning. The defense, whatever. When OG comes back, to your point, it'll probably solve a lot of those issues. Given what you've seen so far, if you had to make a 9-man rotation for this team at full strength, what would you have it be?
Oh, what? Sorry, say it again.
At full strength, what do you think this 9-man? And there's a lot of people who say, well, situationally, maybe you want McBride in this game or you want Burks in another game. That's not really how Thibs operates. But at full strength, what is your 9-man rotation for this team?
Well, the starting lineup is pretty self-explanatory.
So you'd start Mitch.
I wouldn't start Mitch. I would start Hartenstein.
Okay, so the starting lineup is the 4 guys and Hartenstein.
Yeah.
4 guys meaning OG, Randall, Brunson, and DiVincenzo.
Right. And then it should be Hart, Bogdanovic, Precious, and Deuce.
So you wouldn't have Mitch in the rotation?
No.
If Mitch was a staple, would you choose Precious over Deuce?
I would have to.
Just as the backup for never give.
I wanted like the Precious thing again. Even with Precious, this is also a frustration with not being healthy. Because like, I'm judging this on such a small sample of what I saw of Precious with Randall and OG, which was awesome, quite frankly, I thought. Who knows if that would have sustained? But like what we saw of them, I'm like, I think Hartenstein gives you he's like 90% of what Mitch is good at the things that Mitch is good at. And then he gives you more in every other place where Mitch is deficient, right? Ball handling, whatever. We don't need to go through it. And I think it's more valuable to have a different dynamic than doubling down on 48 minutes of rim protection, 48 minutes of, offensive rebounding, dominance, and all that stuff. Like, I think
you're paying a guy $50 million and he's someone you value. So asking him to sit on the bench when he's healthy, there are other.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I think you can be situational with all this stuff. Like, the team is deep, the team is versatile, the team has options. That is the strength of the team. So yeah, you can have preferences. Like if Thibs has preferences, that's fine. Whatever. If his preferences, I want to roll with Mitch as the backup 5 or whatever, and Precious is out for now, I'm not going to lose my mind over it. But there should be situations where you as the coach are like, okay, this actually makes sense. This is a good time to bring in Precious. This is a good spot for him. Let me use Precious here instead of Hartenstein, instead of Mitch or whoever. It can be either one. And that is how you need to coach this team, because I don't think they have a set 9-man rotation that's perfect. I think they have a starting lineup that makes a lot of sense. I think you have a guy like Josh Hart who almost is guaranteed to have to play, and rightfully so. And then I think I think ultimately Bogdanovic to some degree has to play. Like, you need to have more shooting on your team that's consistent outside of the starting lineup. It can't just be Brunson, Dante, OG, and that's that. Like, it has to be more than that. So I think Bogdanovic has to be part of the rotation to a degree. And then I think everything else is on the table. Everything else to me should be on the table. Mitch, Precious, Deuce, Burks, all those guys. Those 4 guys, they could play in certain situations. They can sit for long periods of time, as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to the playoffs, regular season, I don't know. I don't envy some of the decisions Tom Thibodeau has to make if we're at full health. I will be completely like, it's easier for me to sit here and be like, oh, I would love to play Precious over Mitch because of the versatility it gives us. But you're right. Like, you're paying Mitch X. You haven't paid Precious yet. You presumably want to keep Mitch happy, at least for the time being. Is it again, it's very easy for me to sit here and be like, well, I like Precious's versatility. It gives us a new dynamic. And yeah, that's great in theory. I'm not sitting there dealing with the locker room. I don't have to talk to Mitch every fucking day. That's a different dynamic entirely.
I mean, it certainly seems, as great as Precious has been, if you're asking me to send 48 minutes against Joel Embiid.
Right. So that's a situation where you go with right. Yeah. So that's but that's the point, right?
If it's like Boston and you got Kristaps Porzingis playing the 5, or even Horford, then you'd hope that Thibs has that kind of malleability. I think what I'm saying,
but even with Philly, right? Like,
they have Paul Reed at the backup.
Yeah, 5, when they have Paul Reed as the backup 5, we've fucking destroyed them with Precious out there. So like, maybe so even within the context of like matchups. Like, we've talked about this with centers all the time, and this has been center rotation. If you don't have a superstar center, then your center rotation should be like a platoon, right? You should have 2 to 3 options, and maybe they all have different things they do, and you got to plug and play them at the right time. So, like, within the context of a series against Philly, sure, maybe Joel is going to play 40 minutes a game, so you're only going to get 8 minutes against Paul Reed, but maybe those 8 minutes are when you're like, yeah. Anytime Paul Reed's in, we're going small. We're going to put Precious in, and that's what we do. And the other 40 minutes, they just get split up between Hartenstein and Mitch. However, however it unfolds during the course of a game and series, whoever's having the better day or whatever. And that's just how you do it. And yeah, to your other point about Boston, like, yeah, quite frankly, against Boston, I think Mitch is a liability. I think he's a liability in that series because I think that they will be.
He can pound them on the offensive glass.
I think he can. I'm just not sure that's actually how you beat Boston.
Yeah. I mean, they they have always is it eschew or eschew? Never know. Eschewed the offensive glass. That's just a Boston philosophical thing. Wow. I think for me the bigger debate is more. I think Mitch is going to play, to be honest, no matter what. If we think about how Thibs, and to your point, maybe that is something fair to judge him on. There's very few scenarios in which I think I would want to move on from Thibs after the season.
You would?
There's very few scenarios in which I would want to move on from Thibs this offseason. Because either they end up in a low seed and get blown out by Boston round one, which is like, how much of that can you put on him? It's like if they lose to like Indiana series or like Orlando or something, I might get pissed and like think that you might need to move on. But I think there's just been so much, and I think he's done a really good job, all things considered. For me, like getting back to the rotation, what's interesting to me is if Mitch is going to play no matter what, if he and Hartenstein are going to split the minutes, are you better off with Precious as your backup 4 and then have OG play all his minutes of the 3 with Hart backing him up? Or if you make OG your backup 4, you can do that, play Hart at the 3, but then you're probably going to have to play Deuce. At this point, right now, and Deuce has been shooting the ball really well. He's a good perimeter defender. If that is the choice, Deuce or Burks, because they're quote-unquote guards versus Precious, you have to find that guy minutes, man. He's been a fucking animal.
I mean, yeah, you don't tell me. I'm Precious. I've been Precious pilled. So yeah, like I think
that is what I think, because a lot of people are like, yeah, Precious is probably out. You're probably going to play Deuce or Burks as the backup because you need a backup creator. I was like, just stagger Brunson and Randall, right? Which means if you play Randall with the bench or you play Brunson with the bench, you need less creation. Dante gives you some of that, so you can stagger him too, to the extent that it helps. And you have Bogdanovic. Do you need another quote-unquote creator at that point, or would you rather, a guy who can give you all the things that Precious can give you? I think it's Precious at that point. So my nine-man rotation, I probably still would stick with Mitch, and I think realistically, if he's healthy, he's going to play. Excuse me. But so I think it's Mitch, Hartenstein, Randall, Precious, OG, Hart, Dante, Brunson, and Bogdanovic. That's to me the lineup. And it would.
What is it? Dante, OG, Bogdanovic, Precious.
What do you mean?
What was the lineup you said?
No, I'm saying my 9-man rotation would be the starters, right? So
yeah,
and then Mitch, Precious, Bogdanovic, and Hart.
I just don't think I just think the shooting the spacing is going to be fucking. I don't think that's viable.
You think Deuce gives you that much better spacing than Precious, and it's worth that trade-off?
I think you're going to play those guys such minimal minutes that you'd rather bet on the spacing.
And again, this is also just assuming Mitch is going to play, because I agree.
Yeah, it's possible he doesn't come back.
Yeah, well, this is assuming even if he comes back, that Thibs wouldn't do what you suggested, which is to, not play him and make Precious the full-time backup. I don't think he will do that personally.
It feels like I don't know. You want Mitch to be healthy. You want Mitch to come back, and at the same time, I'm like, man, if Randall and OG are healthy, like we saw that team. We saw what the team looks like without Mitch, but with Randall and OG and Hartenstein and Precious. And yeah, I guess basically we're like subbing out Grimes in this scenario for Bogdanovic. That would effectively I feel like that roster fucking makes sense. I think that rotation makes sense. I think you get.
And it's like, if we get to the finals, right? You play Denver, that would be my other thought, right? Mitch has done well against it. Oh, like what Precious did, right? It almost
Sims did even.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Sims needs to play. I'm just saying, look, yeah.
But if Mitch is going to play in the choices between Precious versus Burks and McBride providing superior spacing, I think Precious is every bit as impactful on defense as Deuce, by the way. So that is not a needle mover for me. And Burks' spacing versus Precious being better at literally everything else, maybe even creation at this point, at least for others. I can't take him out of the rotation. I don't think that's an answer. The question really should be, to your point, Mitch versus one of those two. But I'm not taking Precious out, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is more something though where what we're really talking about is like what the Knicks need to do to upgrade on the margins moving into next season. Like, I think they obviously need to get a better bench. They need a consistent bench guard. Now, maybe that's Deuce developing more.
Bones Island.
It's not Bones Island. I actually was kind of impressed by some of the stuff Deuce did yesterday. I thought he showed more off the bounce than he's shown in a while. He didn't. It's annoying because he blew by Ingram a couple of times and was like at the rim and then kicked it out for three. Which
a lot of the guys, Dante did that too. A bunch of Hart does that a lot. It's a little annoying because there's like those 10-foot floaters, which I think you said this in the strict court. Deuce absolutely needs one of those.
Yeah, he needs.
But Dante has that, and Dante kept kicking out when I thought, like, dude, just take the shot, especially if you're kicking out to Precious or something, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was.
I think overpassing has been a thing with this Knicks team because they have so many guys who are not creators but drive and kick, and it's always been something they've had to adjust with. So.
Yeah, I mean, Dante has always been like a pretty heavy drive and kick volume guy. That's just kind of like how he has played throughout his career. But yeah, I mean, look, he had won the other day against who are they playing? Who did they beat? Against Philly. The first game after the All-Star break, where Dante had a fucking layup. He's attacking Buddy Hield in transition. He literally has a layup. It's there. And instead he kicks it out to Deuce for a three. It's like, dude, we're up 10. Just take, and it's like 5 minutes left. The expected value of a three there means a lot less than the almost guaranteed two. Like, guaranteeing 2 points is worth more than risking it for an extra one. You know what I mean? Like, you're up 10. You're holding the lead. In that scenario, you want the guaranteed bucket, especially. Maybe, if you're trying to cut a deficit, okay, I can understand that a little bit more. But you're trying to extend a lead as much. You just need as many points on the board as you can get. Take the layup. But yeah, look, I mean, I agree. I just think Deuce, like, he's kind of gotten more comfortable taking the mid-range pull-up, which is good. That obviously gives him a second level of scoring. The three-point shooting, I think it's fallen off a little bit, right? What is he shooting now from?
Yeah, he's having to take more pull-ups. Obviously, like, it's going to look worse when he doesn't get to play with.
Yeah, so he's still shooting.
I mean, when he played with, I mean, I could look it up, but I'm sure with Randall there, he was also way better from three.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, all these guys have shot worse since Randall has gone down. I mean
Brunson's down to 31%. I think DJ from
KFS
mentioned that.
Oh yeah, he definitely has been mentioning that. That much is for sure. DJ's been on that for a while. I mean, the Knicks have.
So Deuce had was at something.
They have managed to have the 13th best offensive rating in basketball in the 13 games since Randall's been out, which is
pretty incredible.
Yeah. And they're actually 13th in that's 13th in 3-point attempts. They are 14th in 3-point percentage since Randall went out, which is also kind of impressive. So, like, I don't know. Actually, honestly, seeing that, I feel like pretty good about what they can be when Randall gets back, because he definitely helped create better quality looks and higher percentage looks.
Well, even on defense, as much as we rip on his defense, against Boston, he would have helped a lot on defense because you had so many times where Hart had to guard Jaylen Brown or Porzingis, right? And Randall is good at that. I did want to add, based on your earlier point on OG, Precious, and Randall being together, they've only played 42 minutes together. So small sample size, their own 3-point field goal percentage, which I do think is probably based on the fact that Randall has that much gravity and Precious is mobile, is 54%. The opponent 3-point percentage is 20%. Again, those would probably, over a longer sample size, normalize a little bit more, but I do think their defense is going to be better and they're going to have better spacing. In 42 minutes, they have a plus 47.72 net rating, 139 offensive rating, 91 defensive rating. Yeah, it seems like the kind of lineup, and it's not something that I think Thibs shied away from either. It's just And for a lot of that, Precious was kind of ass, right? If you remember when he first got here. So to your point, that like needs to be a thing they go to in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just again like this team's strength is versatility, and it was that honestly it was that even when the season started, we talked about it then, right? And it's honestly maybe it's a bigger strength now because they've upgraded kind of like the level of versatility they have, the different lineups and variations they can throw at you. Now, to go back to the point where I was trying to make earlier, is just like I think when we're talking about, versatility sometimes can be a euphemism for we don't know who our eighth best
it's like
guy is.
if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any, right?
Like, do you actually have like 11 or 12 rotation players, or do you have 7 and then you're trying to figure out who the other 2 are? I tend to think the Knicks are closer to the former than the latter, but either way, consolidation is what you want, and you would rather have a definitive answer than having to kind of search for it on any given night. And I think, that backup creator role, like I'm not happy that we're discovering this now, but I do think people are really appreciating now what a luxury it was to have Quickly coming off the bench for us. Because you see, especially with Randall out, like when Brunson sits, you're just hoping they can fucking get hot from 3. That's it. They've got nothing else. You're just praying, like, please get hot from 3. Please get hot from 3. That's it. That's all they got. They don't have anything else. So getting somebody who's at least more dynamic is something to address. And I guess the kind of glossy version of doing that is simply trying to acquire a third star, right? Because you get a third star, now that guy can kind of help buoy the offense the way Randall also does when Brunson sits, and that's how you figure that out.
So that was the case for DeJounte Murray, but the problem with that is if somebody is a high usage guy, the fit might be a little clunky when you need someone who can both fit with Randall and Brunson and do that, right? So are you better off? A name I'll throw out there is Jaden Hardy. I don't know if Dallas will trade him. They don't have a ton of guys, but they have Kyrie and Luka anyway. And Jaden Hardy has had. I would take Jaden Hardy over a guy like Cam Thomas. I think their values are very different. You could get a guy like that for minimal cost and still keep yourself open to the right star, right? Like, let's say the rights. I am still on the belief that the right star next to those two is Lowry, and I don't think OG changes that. But Markkanen, not Kyle. But I wonder if for this specific need that you're talking about, if they're better off just getting a Tyus Jones or a Jaden Hardy or.
Well, Tyus Jones is pretty interesting because he's
like a Schroeder, right? Schroeder got traded for nothing. So I wouldn't mind him as our backup.
I would mind. Fuck Dennis Schroeder.
Is that a personal thing or is that his game?
No, he's like a net negative every fucking year, and every year people talk themselves into Dennis fucking Schroeder for some reason.
But if you're just asking him to man that bench unit,
he's not good at it. He's not good at it. He's never been good at it in the NBA. Like, look at his career. Look at his fucking career. He's never been good at it. Every team that has him ends up not wanting him. Every single team. Like the Lakers were like, maybe not. Every team. The guy's net negative for his career is like a minus 0.6 on off. I don't know. I'm out on Dennis Schroeder. I don't want him.
He's the larger point, right? I mean, a guy like Jaden Hardy, I think, would be very interesting. So
he'd be interesting.
If we could get, Cole Anthony would be the perfect guy for that role. He's just on a great contract in Orlando.
Yeah, and there's no need for them to trade him. I mean, Tyus Jones is interesting because he's an unrestricted free agent this summer, but I suspect that Washington will pay him more than, like, to your point about Tyus Jones is interesting because he's ideal as a backup point guard, and as a starter, he's like a low end starter, right? So I think what will happen is Washington's going to pay him more than what teams who would want him to be their backup point guard would be willing to offer, and then they'll trade him down the line. Which is where I think he becomes interesting because it's like, okay, well, then do you have a contract you can throw at them, and do you have something that makes sense? And do you have, like, the Knicks have some picks, right? They actually have a protected Washington pick. Would Washington want that pick back? Whatever. There's ways to do it, but I think Tyus Jones is maybe somebody they could think about acquiring at next year's trade deadline. I don't think they can get him this offseason. But they need something more. They need something more dynamic. And maybe and we just talked about this. Maybe it really is as simple as Randall's going to get healthy. We still have Bogdanovic, and all of a sudden that figures itself out. Like that is enough to buoy our offense when Brunson's not on the floor. It's very possible that's enough. I could be completely off on this, but like it would really help if Deuce would just be more. I mean, and I get it. He's a developing young player, but I am spoiled because we got a year and a half of Brunson and Quickly, and you're like, wow, this is great. We have 48 minutes of actual competent ball handling. I cannot believe the world I'm living in. But like maybe that'll be Deuce. Maybe Deuce takes, because he has progressed for sure this season from what he was last year or his rookie year. There's no question about that. Maybe he can take another mini leap. And they don't need him to be amazing. They just need him to like yesterday was a little bit disappointing to me, if I'm being honest about Deuce, because I thought his passing was good. I thought he showed some stuff off the bounce.
I mean, that passing shit comes real easy to a hooper like Cam Thomas.
Once he's Deuce is now remembered who he is at the elbow.
The mid-range pull-ups, every time he takes it, they are going in.
They're nice. They're good shots. But like I was a little bit disappointed because I think he needed, like, that was a game yesterday where you just got to unload the clip. And I thought he deferred a little bit too much at times. And I get that Burks is the vet. And he probably still thinks of Burks as his vet to a degree, right? Because Burks was there when Deuce was a rookie. But like, he's got to get over that shit. And he's got to understand, like, how many shots did he even take yesterday? 11? I think he took 11 shots during the game yesterday. Like, that's unacceptable. You've got to get your volume up in a game like that. And
those are rookie numbers, baby. You got to pump those numbers up.
Exactly. So like that was a little bit disappointing to me. I'm not gonna lie. But that doesn't take away from, like, I did see, like, he burned guys off the dribble a couple times yesterday. Didn't look for his own shot in those situations, which is kind of the next step for him.
He did have, I mean, one thing that's crazy, 8 assists. He's 8 assists. He 0 turnovers. He's always had, like, I think his rookie year, he had like an 8-to-1 assist turnover ratio. I don't know what it is this year, but like, the guy doesn't turn the ball over. Whatever else you want to say about him, struggles to create space and all that, but it is pretty impressive because it's like there's like, I think Monte Morris is the only guy who's putting up like 6. Yeah, this year he's averaging 1.1 assists to 0.4 turnovers. So not quite his rookie year numbers, but he's he's good at that. I do worry just that, like, it doesn't feel like he has the burst that you would like from that position. I don't know if that'll ever change. And you have to build a elite ball.
But I don't think it's like he actually showed good burst yesterday. It's about the confidence to do it consistently. And then to not forget just doing it, then leveraging it into more than just like, yeah, look, obviously it's great to get in to the paint below the free throw line and then spray out to a shooter, right? That's great. That's fantastic. But you got to be a threat to score inside there too. And if you are a threat to score inside there, then it opens up more opportunities to spray out to shooters. He's got to figure out how to score below the free throw line, because the mid-range pull-up that he's got, it's nice to have that, but that you don't want that to be your only thing inside the arc, right? It's just
like the inverse of Quickly almost, right? Because Quickly had the floater, but he didn't have the mid-range pull-up. Developed the mid-range pull-up, and that opened up more for him. You're looking at the opposite with Deuce, right? Where he has
and look, Quickly's floater thing was just weird because he was just like insanely efficient at that from ranges that maybe you shouldn't even take floaters from. So like Deuce doesn't need to be,
but he still needed that mid-range pull-up. He incorporated it, right? He had that turnaround and all that. So
right. And no, I'm saying more like, I don't think Deuce needs to be like, I'm not asking him to finish like Brunson at the rim or shoot floaters as well as Brunson and Quick did or whatever, but like he's just got to be willing to take those more and to take them more, because he's got to be more of a threat to score into the arc, because otherwise we're going to get more of this fucking Burks initiating bullshit. And I might go crazy. I might go Joker if we do that. So like, I just think maybe disappointing is probably a little bit harsh, but I wanted to see more. Yeah. I wanted to see more, because it's like, dude, Brunson's not there. Randall's not there. OG's not there. That's like, I mean, I know usage doesn't exactly work this, but that's what, like fucking 75 usage or something combined, probably 80. Like, fucking get your shots up. Like Bogdanovic yesterday knew those guys were out and was just like, fuck it. I'm fucking letting this shit rip every time I get a chance. And same with DiVincenzo. That was awesome yesterday. He was just like, I am going to shoot threes every time I touch the ball, and you're gonna have to live with that. And I was like, I love this. This is great. Keep doing this. What was he? Was he 7 of 17 from 3 yesterday? DiVincenzo? That was an incredible willingness to shoot performance from him. You're muted.
Yeah, I mean, he knows. They've drilled it into him, and he's been great at that role.
Yeah. Did you hear the thing against Detroit where Thibs was apparently Breen said that Thibs calls him the riverboat gambler? I was like, is that a thing? Like, is he Kenny Rogers now?
Well, he is white, but
yeah. You gotta know when to hold up.
You know what that song reminds me of, right?
Yes, Rex.
Yeah. Very depressing song in the context, I guess. At 2 a.m. when you're blackout drunk and going home alone.
And yeah, didn't get laid.
Going home to a cloth rag and a bad morning.
Okay.
or sorry, a chatterbait. These days. I think with McBride, yeah, I mean, you want him to be a little bit more a risk taker. You know, it's something. I don't think it's not as bad as it was with like Frank, right? Obviously, he is more talented on offense than Frank. I would say he's a better even point of attack defender than Frank. They're both really good help defenders. But you'd like to see that. I think they gave him that deal as like a kind of, it's a very convex deal where he could outperform it. If he doesn't, that's still not a bad deal at all. But I think I don't think they need a third star. I think trying to get a third star to solve that problem to me is a little bit counterintuitive. Not counterintuitive. It might be diminishing returns, right? Because let's say you get, they're not going to trade for Bradley Beal, right? But some like DeJounte Murray, right? If they traded for someone like that, you know, I think you still need to maintain the spacing of the lineup. So I'd rather if their third star came, it would be someone like Markkanen or someone who could play without the ball and fix your bench issues with. There are guys you can get, DeLon Wright. You can get guys like, I don't know where Reggie Jackson is. Is Reggie Jackson on the Clippers or he's in Denver?
Reggie Jackson is in Denver.
The last time Reggie Jackson played for New York, we should say it ended up pretty well. But someone like that, it shouldn't be too hard to find. The Clippers found it with Westbrook, right? A guy who everyone. I think that I'd be interested to see if someone like D'Lo could work out on the Knicks. In the same way that Westbrook has worked out much better on the Clippers as kind of a sixth man. I think that they do need that creation. I am very curious to see how much I have been encouraged by what I've seen from Bogdanovic because I think he can get to his spots. He can hit tough shots. He's a smart player. He's a really good passer. He has a good idea of like even what looks like a tough. I think the best shooters are the kind of, or the best offensive players often they get to a spot where the defender's like, that's not a great shot. That is just, I'm willing to live with that. And they're like, you don't want to live with that. And I know you're going to live with that and I can get to it. That is how KD has made a living. That's what Brunson's great at. And Bogdanovic had a bank shot yesterday where it's like, man, that's not a good shot. But for him, he knew exactly where he wanted to go. And he knew the defense would give it to him. So I think I think he'll be fine running that bench unit, at least for this year. And I think this is also the other thing with kind of the angst about this is there is no dominant team. This is why everyone was probably more disappointed last year after they lost to Miami than maybe you would expect, given how poorly the Knicks have, played the last 20 years. Was that, yeah, you made the second round, you made it farther than you have in a long time, but this was the year where you had Miami beat Boston. Boston was not a juggernaut. Philly was not a juggernaut. Milwaukee was out. And this year it feels the same. And I think that does cause a little bit of angst because it's like, man, yeah, like maybe we have not quite what is typically called a championship roster, but there's nobody that scary. This is your time to strike while the iron is hot, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of the frustration. There's no question that it is frustrating when you see the conference and the league in a lot of ways is fairly open. But I mean, that's what it is. Like I get the frustration. I don't get how it feels like there are a lot of fans manifesting the frustration in
Fire Rose or Fire Thibs.
Yeah, like just getting upset about like various things and that are just like inevitable. Like again, I don't think Thibs has been perfect in this stretch, but I don't think he has any perfect solutions. Like, yeah, again, I can be like, man, we need to get more spacing on the floor. Okay, so he puts Bogdanovic at the 4. See what fucking Zion did to Bogdanovic at the 4 yesterday? Like, okay, so now, well, we need to get another big on the floor. Okay, so now it's Sims. Okay, now we have no spacing offensively. Okay, well then I guess maybe we should put Bogdanovic at the 3, and Hart can come out, and now your defense is shit again. And it's just there's no perfect solutions, especially against a team that is good. Like the Pelicans are a good team. They're not a bad team. They're not a joke. They're a good team. So
they were one game behind the Knicks. So
yeah, they're a good team. So like, it's tough. You know, Zion's a tough cover, obviously. Brandon Ingram, tough cover, obviously. It's hard to guard these guys, and if we're again, like I think what is also, and this always ties back to the frustration, is like that same matchup. Though I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, if we were healthy, I think we'd smoke them. I think we're way better than them when we're healthy, but we're not. So
I mean, Zion is just Julius Randle with hops, right? So.
I mean, yeah, basically. And OG. I mean, we haven't had anybody like OG to defend a guy like Ingram in previous matchups when we played them, and he's given us trouble, obviously, in the past. So it's a big game changer not having those guys, and it forces Josh Hart has to play 42 minutes or the hell he played, and Dante DiVincenzo has to take 7. He literally had to shoot the ball every time he touched it because you were like, well, that's the best shot we're probably going to get on that possession. So. It's just really hard. It's what it is. I don't know. I apologize to anybody that's listened to me on pods recently or whatever, and you feel like I'm not giving value or providing value, but it's very hard for me to discuss this team in a way that is constructive because I just don't think that we're not seeing what they are, and then we end up talking in circles, and it's like I don't know.
I mean, I think at least for me, a lot of the frustration I think it's okay to say this just sucks right now because everyone's out. I think that's different from people like actually questioning the direction of the team. I don't see a lot of the latter. That's what I'm saying. So I think it's okay for people to be upset because, like we said, like we saw how awesome you don't you don't get sad when there's no hope. You get sad. Well, I guess that's sad too, but you get even more sad when you see what things could be and that's taken away, right? And I think that's what a lot of Knicks fans are going through right now. So I did want to touch on. So Quentin Grimes did have a great fourth quarter and had some comments after the game.
He went 0 for 5 yesterday, by the way. Fucking loser.
Yeah, I noticed that. Did they win or it was?
Also, he was a -14 and a 10-point win for the Pistons. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
So they're plus 24 in the minutes that Quentin Ntilikina State has called him.
So he got a standing ovation yesterday or 2 days ago when he came into the game. Went off in the fourth. It was mean mugging the bench. Seems to have a little bit of some animosity towards Newark. He specifically called out Brunson. I mean, he hugged Brunson after the game, so I don't know if there's animosity towards him, but he said Brunson gets that call at the end of the game, called out Knicks fans and said, those are just Knicks fans for you when they booed Fournier, which I will say, I don't necessarily think booing Fournier was warranted. I don't think an ovation was warranted either. He was here, didn't necessarily work out. Has your opinion of Grimes, who I think we all really liked in a Knicks uniform, ups and downs regardless, has your opinion changed of Grimes at all based on maybe what happened against in the last game?
My opinion of him as a player hasn't really changed much. Like I will, like I'm lower on his upside now, and I was lower on his upside as the season went on than I was prior to the season. But I've never been like super high on his upside. I think he's really he has the potential to be one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league, which is not nothing. And
like a Gary Trent type guy.
Yeah, attacking the closeout stuff. Like I thought he was in a bad way this year, but none of it was unfixable to me. I was like, okay, he just needs to kind of like slow down a little bit, understand how teams are defending him. And I don't think he's ever. I was never worried like, oh my God, is he a flash in the pan? He's going to wash out of the league or something like that. No, like I think he's going to be a productive and good player for a long time. Obviously his comments after the game, like, I don't even mind them. The mean mugging to the bench, who cares? Like, that's fine, dude. They traded you. You made a big shot. You made a bunch of big shots in the fourth quarter. Like, it's fine. You're allowed to like do that. We heard the Josh Hart clip where he made a three in front of the Pistons bench and he said something to them too, right? So it's like, it's fine. That's just part of the game. That's basketball. That's all sports. You talk shit. But I mean, the games, the comments after the game, fucking, everybody in the nation, shut the fuck up, dude. You play for the Pistons. Dude, nobody's fucking watching the Pistons. You know who's watching the Pistons? Fucking, like,
Michigan State fans.
Yeah, nobody's watching the fucking Pistons. Like, get the fuck out of here. And then he was like, "Oh, Brunson would get that call." Like, shut up, man. Like,
you were on this team, and Brunson never gets those calls. So
yeah, I didn't care for that. I thought that was kind of. You can be upset about the call and make that point without kind of making it about like, oh well, the Knicks always get those calls. Because come on, man, what are we talking about here? No, they don't. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't care for the comments about the fans. I thought that was, again, he could have made that same. He could have said everything he wanted to say defending Fournier without the whole like, well, that's Knicks fans for you thing. But yeah, look, I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're speculating on a fucking podcast, but like, I think it says something. Did anybody on the team even like wish him some kind of like farewell on Instagram or anything?
He was dapping up players after the game.
Yeah, but I don't think it seems like very. It's clearly not. It's very obvious he did not connect with his teammates the way that Quickly did or RJ did. It's obvious he clearly did not. I mean, I think it's. I mean, maybe not RJ. I don't know. RJ seems kind of like a robotic, so you never know what exactly he's feeling or thinking. But like, it's obvious he did not feel as strongly about being in New York, playing for the Knicks, and all that stuff as much as Quickly did. Like, so that part didn't resonate very much. And like, he's what he is. He's fine. He's a good player, but I don't think he's like that fun. Like,
I mean, I don't even think it'll like Gallinari became a solid player. I don't think we were ever like seeing him and like, man, what if we had that guy? But he's still a solid player. I wish we kept him. To me, Grimes maybe ends up like Wilson Chandler, where he's like solid player in a trade. Maybe he would have been good on that team, but like not really saying if we just kept Wilson Chandler, the whole trajectory would have changed.
Yeah. I don't think that. But I just. I can't. I don't know. I guess I don't think I can hate him, but let's just say I won't be like, one, I'm not tuning into Pistons games, and two, I will not be invested in whatever his career becomes. If he goes on to do good things, congrats to him. I think that's probably what's likely. If he goes on to be a kind of a bust and washes out in the league sooner than we thought, okay, it doesn't bother me. I won't care. Like, so that's just where I'm at with him. He fine player, good player, don't care. And he doesn't seem to care about the Knicks. He doesn't seem to care about the fans, which is his prerogative. He doesn't need to care about us. So, no love lost, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I mean, we'll always have the last possession he had. I'll mention
all is fair in love and basketball.
Yeah. I'll play you for your Josh Hart. I do have to say this. Did you ever, in 4 years, we have both lived in the Detroit area for 4 years. Did you ever go to a Detroit Pistons game?
Yeah.
I never went once, and I was an NBA fan. So I just think it.
Yeah, that's great. You get to fucking watch the Knicks for dumb cheap.
The Knicks were, Sergio Rodriguez at that point. So no, senior year I should have gone. I don't think I got a chance. I think they'd already played Detroit, or I didn't go when they played Detroit when when they made the Amari trade. But I didn't go in 4 years, so I think the wings are a lot bigger there. So.
Oh yeah, wing games are fun.
Yeah. Was there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's a good place to end it. Stacy, let people know where they can find you. Plug anything you'd like to plug.
You find me at StacyPatton89. I'll plug the article that Shwin mentioned that Knicks Tape did on the site, and all the great work at the Strickland.
I will also plug the article that Knicks Tape wrote. I will say I think it's really funny how mad Grimes obviously was that he got robbed of his game-winning moment. And by the way, I don't think that was I don't care. I know that the league, the officials said it was a foul. The fact that people are acting like that was such an egregious call.
No, people were like, he tackled him. Like, no, he was there, and there was a collision. And
it was a loose ball. And even in the official
reality, please, at least. You can say you can say All-Star got there first. You can say he didn't quite lose control of the ball. Don't tell me DiVincenzo tackled him. He's going for the ball. There's a collision. That happens.
Yeah.
Was it 50-50? Yes. I think it was 50-50. Would I be pissed if I was a Pistons fan? Yes. That doesn't mean this was just some the worst call of all. Dude, Monty, fucking get your resume out to Guangdong. All right? Fuck off.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And Monty should shut up. He's acting like this team, this was like, you've got 8, they had 9 wins. You got 9 wins all year.
Actually complaining.
Yeah.
That this was supposed to be in Detroit, but the Knicks had to play 2 road games against Detroit, against Milwaukee and fucking Boston, by the way. So the Knicks got an extra home game, and the Pistons got screwed over, and now they have more road games than home games, which, if you think about it, is a game changer for them. I mean, can you imagine if they didn't have that one extra road game, Shwin? How fucking dangerous this Pistons team would be? They might have 11 wins.
Yeah, I know. Who knows? But yeah, it's just stupid. And I think that was a bang play. If you want to tell me that it was a foul on Dante, I don't think that's sure. If that's what they think it was, fine. I don't think that's if they'd called a foul on Dante there, I wouldn't have been like, holy shit, what a horrible call either. I would have understood it. I just didn't think that was a foul. I didn't personally think it was a foul in real time. Even watching the replay, I don't agree with their interpretation of it, but fine, whatever. But it was a bang call. At worst, the guy made the wrong call. It was by like milliseconds. It was by a millisecond maybe that Asar touched the ball before Dante. But aside from that, the rest of that play, I mean, that was a crazy play, crazy sequence. The Knicks really needed that win, so good for us. If I was upset about anything as a Pistons fan, it would have been that Duren call. I didn't think that was an and one. But hey, maybe get the defensive rebounds. All right. That is our show for today. Thank you to our sponsors, both BetOnline and To Cut. I will be back on Friday. Me and Prez will be recording the pod on Friday morning, so we'll have that out for you sometime Friday afternoonish, most likely. Knicks play Golden State Thursday night, so we'll see how they do. Hopefully Brunson and Ihart are well recovered, and we can get this W and move back to 500 in the non-OG or Randall era. That would be nice. All right. Again, that's our show for today, and I'll see everybody on Friday.